Welcome to The Deep Dive. This is a Prime AI podcast brought to you by the folks at Silicon and Silk.
Great to be here. Okay, if you're running an e-commerce operation, particularly, in the fast-paced world of fashion retail, let's get down to brass tacks on profit. We're going to open up the conversation today about, a pretty huge operational blind spot. It's the reason why those record-breaking sales numbers you might be celebrating every morning, they could actually be, a costly illusion.
It really is a paradox, isn't it? You can see this incredible growth in sales volume. Things look great on paper, but underneath, the business might actually be bleeding cash. We're looking at some figures and reports that really highlight the difference between companies achieving real sustainable profit and those just burning through capital.
Yeah. Right. So our mission today really is simple. We want to understand the numbers that actually define business health. We're drilling down into probably the most critical, but honestly often ignored performance indicator. It's the one that tracks what you really kept from each sale. We're talking about net profit per order, or NPPO. Okay, think about the usual fashion e-commerce dashboard. What gets all the focus? It's always conversion rate, right? CVR, average order value, AOV. Maybe a quick look at how many items shipped. There's this huge tendency to celebrate massive sales totals, that big GMV number, gross merchandise value, like it's the ultimate win.
And that's the vanity metrics trap. It feels good, looks good, but it's often an illusion of genuine growth. The uncomfortable truth we've found looking into this is that while retailers might be excited about, say, a jump in CVR, very few leadership teams can actually tell you the dollar amount of net profit they made per order yesterday.
That's specific.
Yeah, that's specific. They just don't have the visibility to connect that initial purchase excitement with all the often delayed and pretty complex costs that follow it.
And without that link, what happens? Your marketing team, seeing high conversions, throws more money at those campaigns.
Exactly.
Logistics expands to handle more packages. Everything looks like it's booming on the surface. But then, the marketing spend creeps up, shipping costs edge higher. And then, like clockwork, 2 weeks later, that wave of customer returns comes rolling in and just quietly wipes out chunks of that revenue. So you've got the appearance of great sales, but the reality might be losses.
It creates a really dangerous operating situation. We often see these high sales figures used, sometimes unintentionally, to kind of mask rising operational costs, especially in fashion, where those customer friction points like getting the size wrong translate directly into huge costs after the initial sale.
Yeah.
Focusing only on GMV, it's frankly a distraction from fixing the real leaks in the operation.
Okay, so let's nail this down then. We've established NPPO is the key metric we should be watching. Why exactly does net profit per order matter so much more than gross merchandise value? And when you lay out the formula, let's really dig into the tricky parts.
Right. NPPO is crucial because it forces you to be accountable at the level of a single transaction. It really exposes exactly how profitable or unprofitable one interaction with the customer actually was. It demands that you stop, lumping costs together quarterly and start assigning them right away to the specific order.
Okay, so don't break down the anatomy of that NPPO calculation for us.
Well, the basic formula looks simple enough on the surface. Net profit per order equals the revenue you got from that order, minus all the costs tied to it. But you have to look really closely at those costs. It's the cost of goods sold, COGS, naturally, plus the full impact of returns, plus the marketing costs you can attribute to that specific order, plus fulfillment costs, and of course, any discounts you applied. If you miscalculating even one of those accurately, your NPPO number is just, it's fiction.
Okay, wait, let's pause on that returns part. You said the full impact. When, say, a $150 dress comes back, are we just talking about losing the $150 revenue, or is there more to it? That's exactly where the complexity bites, and where standard accounting often falls short. We're talking about the total operational drag. That includes reverse logistics, the cost to ship it back. Then there's the labor for someone to inspect it, maybe clean it, repackage it, restock it, plus the inventory holding costs while that item is out of your sellable stock. Often, these costs get buried somewhere else, like in general and admin expenses, totally disconnected from the original sale in the books. NPPO insists you pull those reverse costs back and tie them directly to that initial transaction.
Wow. Okay, so including reverse logistics and potentially even remarketing costs, all tied back to that single order.
Yeah.
That is absolutely critical because, like you said, if you're only looking at the old dashboards, you might still be cheering for your highest converting Facebook campaign.
Right.
When actually, maybe that campaign brought in customers who returned things like crazy, and it ended up costing you money 2 weeks down the line when all the refunds processed. Precisely. NPPO shifts the whole conversation from just volume to actual value. It's really the only metric that helps you answer those more sophisticated strategic questions accurately. Like, which product categories are genuinely driving profit, not just high sales numbers? Which customer segments are actually worth the cost of acquiring them again once you factor in how often they return things? And crucially, which marketing channels are giving you the highest net yield after all costs are accounted for? So the next logical question is, why don't more businesses track this properly in real time? And the simple answer is, because MPPO is organizationally really messy to calculate.
Messy how?
It requires stitching together all these different pieces of data that live in completely separate systems. This is the classic data silo problem.
Right. You've got your sales transactions, maybe in Shopify or Salesforce or Magento, whatever platform you use. Your top-level ad spend might be clear in Google Ads or Meta's dashboard. But then the really granular cost per click and attribution data, that's often locked away in those ad platforms too. Then returns are probably handled by a totally separate returns portal or maybe your 3PL partner. And those fulfillment costs, which can fluctuate, they're sitting in warehouse management system reports or carrier invoices.
Exactly, and piecing that together is a major headache. It's not just about dumping spreadsheets together. You have to solve tricky things like fractional attribution. How do you correctly assign, say, 40 cents from a specific Google ad click to a $100 sale? Especially if that sale was part of a bigger order and maybe only one item from that order gets returned 2 weeks later. The data needs to be unified, processed, reconciled constantly to keep an accurate, real-time NPPO view. It's more of a data engineering challenge than just an accounting one.
That level of difficulty definitely explains why so many retailers just stick with the aggregated top-line numbers. It's easier. But okay, while the data fragmentation is the technical headache, we absolutely have to talk more about returns, especially in fashion, because as you hinted, they're like this silent killer of profit.
Oh, they are devastating. Some of the analysis we reviewed showed truly staggering figures. Many fashion retailers are losing a shocking 20% to 40% of their potential margin after the sale. And that huge chunk is attributed solely to returns related to sizing and fit issues, just sizing.
20 to 40% margin leak just from sizing returns. I have to say, when I first encountered that range was genuinely stunning. We're busy celebrating record sales days. Meanwhile, this massive systemic leak is just constantly draining profit in the background.
And here's the really crucial part from that data. This specific problem, the sizing issue, is often described as completely avoidable. When you factor in all those costs we just discussed, reverse logistics, inventory risk, lost opportunity, tackling the fit problem head on is arguably the single fastest way to give your MPPO an immediate boost. It plugs a huge hole.
Okay, so let's pivot then. We've talked about the systemic problem, the painful numbers. Let's talk about solutions. The information points towards sophisticated technologies emerging now, specifically things focused on predictive sizing. These seem to be a key way companies are trying to improve NPPO, partly by fixing the return issue, but also by helping unify some of that data.
Yes, we're looking at a category of tech that really attacks the NPPO equation from multiple angles at once, which is powerful. It creates this compounding effect that helps stabilize the entire bottom line, not just fix one symptom.
Okay, so the first, most obvious benefit is cutting down on those fit-related returns we just talked about.
Correct. When shoppers get reliable size guidance before they buy, the data shows these kinds of tools reduce size-related returns by around 35% on average. That directly protects your gross margin on every sale that doesn't come back. That's instant MPPO improvement.
The second benefit is maybe less obvious, but strategically really important: the impact on conversion rates. The idea being, if a shopper feels confident it's going to fit, they're less likely to hesitate and abandon the cart.
Absolutely. That confidence translates directly into clicking buy. Retailers using these predictive sizing systems are seeing consistently at least a 3% uplift in their overall conversion rate. And interestingly, this holds true even for higher-priced, more premium items where you'd expect shoppers to be more cautious.
Okay, 3% CVR lift is significant. And the third angle, which I think gets missed if you only focus on stopping returns, is the effect on average order value, the AOV.
Yes. When that sizing trust is there, the shopper isn't as tentative. They feel more comfortable adding more to their basket. Maybe they buy the slightly more expensive version of something or add an accessory because they aren't mentally preparing for the hassle of sending half the order back. The typical observation is a pretty solid 15% increase in AOV among customers who actually use the sizing guidance technology. It changes how people shop.
Right, so let me recap that. You potentially keep a higher percentage, fewer returns of a higher value sale, higher AOV, and you close that sale more often, higher CVR. That really is a powerful compounding effect on the net profit per order. And connecting this back to that data challenge we talked about, are these platforms also helping to act as the glue, bringing together the sales, refund, marketing, and logistics data?
In many ways, yes. They're becoming enablers for the kind of, let's call it, cloud-based data infrastructure you need to actually do that complex NPPO calculation in something close to real time. This unified view gives leadership immediate, actionable insights. It pulls the business out of that reactive mode, waiting for the quarterly P&L statement to find out they had a disastrous month for returns 3 months ago. Now they can potentially see the NPPO impact of product X sold via Facebook campaign Y almost instantly. And this capability, this visibility, really leads us to the fundamental strategic shift that's needed for success in modern fashion retail. The goal has to move away from that old mantra of just more traffic at any cost. It has to be laser focused on achieving more profit per transaction.
And once retailers start genuinely tracking net profit per order as their North Star metric, their decisions get much sharper, right? For instance, they stop just blindly celebrating high conversion rates if those conversions are coming from a customer segment or maybe a specific product line that consistently loses money after all the operational costs are factored in.
They fundamentally reallocate resources. Less energy might go towards just endless, often expensive customer acquisition, and more resources get dedicated towards operational efficiency, specifically fixing that friction around fit and sizing. They start treating the return rate, especially that big chunk related to size, not as just some unavoidable cost of doing business, but as a critical daily performance metric that needs immediate, almost engineering-level attention to solve.
It really boils down to making sure you're maximizing what you earn from every single sale, doesn't it? Rather than just maximizing the number of sales you make. And if you're not factoring in that whole spectrum of cost returns handling true marketing attribution into a real-time NPPO number, you really are flying blind. That metric, NPPO, is quickly becoming the single most accurate indicator of an online store's actual financial health and vitality. So if there's one core truth to really internalize from our conversation today, it has to be this. Growth without profit isn't really growth at all. It's just very expensive activity. We spend so much energy chasing that top line number, we often completely ignore the leaks happening in the bottom line, which is where the business actually survives or fails.
Exactly. And maybe here's a provocative thought for everyone listening to consider as we wrap up. If your current high sales figures might be hiding a 20, 30, even 40% margin leakage just from one largely fixable factor, those size-related returns, what other operational inefficiencies, what other cost black holes might be quietly eroding your bottom line right now? What could be lurking in your fulfillment processes or hidden within your marketing spend attribution that only a truly comprehensive transaction-level NPPO view could finally bring to light?
That is a powerful question to leave people with. As you look at your next sales dashboard, maybe ask yourself, am I looking at a metric of vanity or am I looking at a true metric of lasting vitality? Thanks for tuning in.